Welcome to We Politics, brought to you by the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board. I'm your host, Rob Miller. During this series, we will be talking with the candidates in the two Windsor ridings and the Essex riding. All 17 candidates were invited. We'll be talking with Brian Masse right after a word from our sponsor.
Are you passionate about a particular sport? Would you like to combine it with your education? Are you thinking about a career in one of the many rewarding construction-related trades? Do you love subjects like science, technology, engineering, or math? Take a look at the academies of the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board. You'll be glad you did. And years from now, you'll look back on your high school days as the best times of your life. The academies of the Windsor Essex Catholic District School Board. We're with you all the way.
Brian Masse is the candidate for the NDP in Windsor West. He's the incumbent in the race. He's held the riding since 2002. He's owned the riding since Herb Gray retired. Before that, he was a Windsor City Councillor. Brian, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
After 17 years in Parliament, what keeps the job fresh for you?
Oh, it's the projects and working with groups and organizations. So, say for example on the border, not only just getting the border crossing accomplished, but now I'm working on trying to develop a national urban park. So we've been working with groups and organizations from across Canada, Ontario, even Michigan, and then of course here locally to develop the series of parks and put them together into our own national urban park. So those are the things that really get me going, and as well too, it's just a constituency work with my staff that we do every single day to help people. The background in social work gives me the kind of the experience and also the gratification to helping people from the smallest things that people may consider, be it their unemployment check, which is the biggest thing in the world right now because they need to make ends meet.
What do you see as the biggest issue in the Windsor West riding for this election?
There's no doubt that our economy is doing better right now, but we need to look to the future. And so I've been focusing on the Detroit region getting around $14 billion of auto investment, whereas we're not getting a single slice of that right now. So I'm working with business, I'm working with labor, and I'm working with other organizations to help capture some of those jobs. The new innovation related to automotive is exciting because it's greener, cleaner, and it also has new technologies that we can transfer to other sectors. So I really believe we can take advantage of that. So I proposed a strategy that's endorsed by business and labor, and I'm looking forward to working on that together.
Okay, during a recent debate, Sandra Pupatello accused you of not voting for the construction of the Gordie Howe International Bridge. Every measure, she said, you voted against. I heard you say that was untrue, but during that debate, the structure of the debate did not allow you to elaborate. So why don't you take some time now and respond to what Ms. Pupatello said.
Sure, and that's absolutely not true. At different times and points, there's a general budget when it's a whole budget, and at times we haven't supported the overall budget. But many times it's been line by line, and I've always supported it when I can, line by line. Even the most recent budget, when there was a series of individual votes, we actually voted for those things. And it's ironic because at different times, I've been around, so there's been liberal minorities, liberal majorities, conservative minorities, conservative majorities, and I've always voted for the border when I can, when it's in the open line-by-line voting budget. And then also, too, the Liberals actually have voted against it. In fact, Joe Volpe, when he was the transport minister for Justin Trudeau, actually opposed the actual bridge crossing and the Gordie Howe plan to actually get it done. So these things aren't true. At different times, you'll vote for it when there's an opportunity. There's no doubt I've done that consistently over the years.
So it's the omnibus bills that you may have voted down.
100%. It's when it's cluttered in with everything else. But aside from that, there's been many times, many times have voted for it. And actually, we've lifted it and separated it from voting to make sure that can take place. Whereas the Liberals haven't done that all the time. So we actually have the cleaner record. And again, we've never had a member of our caucus or a critic opposed to it, whereas the Liberals have. And that's the ironic thing. I remember a debate with myself, Jeff Watson at that time, and Joe Volpe, saying quite clearly they didn't support the actual crossing.
Okay. As the incumbent, you're getting attacked from all sides, and other parties are saying in 17 years you've been unable to deliver for Windsor. This is really the same attack on all the local NDP members, both provincially and federally. How do you respond to that criticism?
Well, I just look at the point to the record, like getting 50% federal funding for the Herb Gray Parkway when it was a provincial responsibility, and partnering with Mayor Francis at that time to force the province to actually do more environmental works. If you remember, the mayor and council actually had to hire Sam Schwartz and spend millions of dollars of City of Windsor residents' money to fight the province at that time, whereas the federal government, we got them to give 50% funding for it with no terms and conditions, so we actually could have got even more tunneling, but it was the province that didn't do that. So we were able to accomplish that. We were able to accomplish the new border crossing despite changing of parliaments in terms of the timing and all those different things. Auto investment, the underpasses at Howard and Walker Road, a series of different investments, and then also too some environmental works and some research at the University of Windsor. So we focus on the positives, and I can tell you that it's been fun working with the partnerships, and that's really what's important, is that the governments will come and go, but as a member, when you actually want to work with other people, and I've done that, I've worked with anybody in Parliament that wants to get results done, and that shows the consistency. Microbeads, banning that, the first in the world, something we worked on. Those are the toxic plastics that were in your shampoo and your toothpaste. That was our legislation, as well as even the right to repair bill when I went across the country to make sure automotive companies were actually providing the proper information so you can service your vehicle, make it cleaner and safer. Again, done with a joint group of people, and also more importantly, done in when I had not the government seat, but more importantly, had the government's attention. And that's the biggest thing, because often if you don't do those things, you just end up as a number in the back. But I'm not ever a number in the back. In front, in fact, I sit in the front.
In fact, I remember one prime minister wanted you to switch over to the Liberals.
Yes, absolutely. And they've asked me every single term. I've been asked to switch over to the Liberals, including this term. At the beginning of the term, they approached me again. But I love the work that I'm doing with the New Democrats, and Jack Layton, and also too Jagmeet Singh has been amazing to work with. He's the same as Jack Layton in the sense that he wants us in proposition, not opposition, when it comes to actually changing things. So say, for example, my work on cell phones, Jagmeet's been very supportive, but he said, well, let's come up with a better plan. So that's why we're pushing for capping of services, requiring some explanation and a process to raise prices for consumers, and also allowing more competition for sharing the waves. And when we actually do the sale of the spectrum auction, for all this is running on, is that we put more consumer rights at the forefront. So these are the exciting things. We've already got results because Bell, TELUS, and Rogers actually capped some of their data right now from the press conference me and Jagmeet actually did in Ottawa.
Okay, how about Pharma Care? What's your stand on Pharma Care?
It's very important. I'm actually a PSW, so I'm a personal support worker, and I have a little bit of nursing background as well too. And so people getting the proper medications is important, not only just for themselves, but also for our economy. So Pharma Care would provide small businesses with some relief because their employees would have some coverage. We're talking about dental as well as eye coverage, because I don't know how your eyes and your mouth aren't part of your body. It doesn't make any sense. And then also too is if you already have some type of a coverage, often those plans are under siege right now. And so having a base coverage which would provide all Canadians with supports would make a big difference, because it would allow us to be more competitive, and also too, more importantly, people also be healthier and in the economy stronger, going to school or taking care of their kids, or seniors that don't have any coverage. So this is an exciting opportunity to finish the deal of Tommy Douglas, the NDP greatest Canadian who brought in the Pharma Care and also healthcare concept. And we have the healthcare. Let's finish the deal with the Pharma Care.
So on the subject of Pharma Care, the natural follow to that is seniors. They use Pharma Care and dental. I'm a senior, I know this. And what do you see as helping? How would you help seniors in Windsor West?
That's a great question. Actually, early in my career, when I had Jack Layton in Windsor, we launched our Seniors Charter of Rights here in Windsor, and we traveled across Canada. And it was actually voted and passed in Parliament as a motion, but never implemented. And what it called for was the Pharma Care, but also issues and supports to help for housing, for example. We have a lot of seniors that are actually in dire straits when it comes to housing. Most of their income is using for their actual paying their rent. So what we do is have a small rent subsidy for those in the short term and build more affordable housing. And also for seniors, it was part of what we learned is that better supports for lifelong learning. So say, for example, making sure tuition and any type of retraining that you have to do as a senior is also has no interest on student loans. Right now, the government made $3 billion from student loans alone. From the interest they charged on it. So we'd get rid of that to make sure people can go back for retraining without a cost and move to more grants, because lifelong learning is really important. And we actually have a lot of seniors. People are living longer and living much healthier lives. So we need to take advantage of that, because first of all, it's the right thing to do, but second of all, it's an amazing contributive part for our economy, and they're also the mentors of our young people. And the more that we can have seniors able to do those things, the stronger we're going to have for our youth, for our future.
Young people, you just mentioned, Windsor West is historically one of the lowest turnouts in both provincial and federal elections. What are you doing to try to get more young people out to vote?
That's a great question. We're trying to be more open and accessible. So we've worked on our social media. We've been obviously at the schools. We've also gone into neighborhoods where sometimes people say don't bother going into those neighborhoods because they may not have the highest voter turnout. But people are struggling. When you go to those doors, you hear somebody working 2 or 3 jobs. They're very precarious. They're stretched as it can be. So one of the great things is trying to get to those issues. And that's why Pharma Care, again, is so important, because it covers off people when they feel they don't have anything. And they see basically large corporations getting, I know they got another actually tax avoidance that came out the other day of $20 billion in tax avoidance from large companies. They get a little bit, concerned about those things. So when you explain that there are possibilities and opportunities, then they start to turn on. And as well, housing and other issues. So you need to make sure that you are open, because our young people are so important. Our veterans fought for the right to vote. And we need to encourage and change some of the practices to make sure that there's actually more engagement.
Do your polling people actually track how young people are voting?
I don't actually do any polling. I never have over all these years. Yeah, that's what gets me excited is when I do the door knocking. So my work on microbeads and even my seniors charter and stuff like that all came from just knocking on doors and hearing from people about what their and their family are interested in. So these are the things that I continue to do. So I haven't done any polling. We just go door to door and we talk to people, and I do that even off the election too. I have neighborhood input surveys, so I get direction and coaching from my community.
What has surprised you at the door?
Just the amount of struggles that people have getting by right now, and the worrisome about families. My wife teaches in the inner city, and we see families that are on the verge of poverty or in poverty with the breaking point. So there's no doubt that we need a housing strategy, because you even see it with people that have a house now. You can sell a house in Windsor, Essex County, but good luck buying one because the market has gone really high. So we're talking about, first of all, for new housing builds, waiving the HST off of those things, building half a million units across our country, similar to what we did with the wartime housing projects that provided units for the future for many, many generations, and still to this day. And as well, too, a small rental subsidy of up to $5,000 to start for those in immediate crisis, so that they can actually have money to put aside for food, groceries, and school supplies, because it is quite shocking that how many families are falling on that the challenge now. And then on top of that is people that do have homes are struggling right now too, because we've seen speculators, for example, and that's why we want a foreign speculation tax to come on, that speculators from out of this country buy units and sit on them that are vacant and then raise the price for everybody, and that doesn't help because it even puts your property taxes up unfairly.
Yeah, I just, one of the houses on my street was just flipped by, I got their mail by mistake, and I found it was an investment company from Indianapolis, Indiana that owned the house.
Yeah, these things are happening, and that's not good for our community, because there's no real value in that other than the profit they've made. Now they're ripping and shipping that from here to Indiana. So they'll get the profits and they'll take it over to the U.S. side. So that's why we want a foreign speculation tax, because it denies a unit on the market for somebody to be available right now, because it could be turned over again, and you may not have somebody in there, a family in there. It affects our schools, for example, in planning for our districts, because flipping houses and all those things around it isn't a housing strategy. We understand that's going to happen with some renewals, and that's good when we see investment in fixing houses and a number of those things. But just doing it for the sake of taking advantage of the market and the price rises is not a good strategy. And again, all the neighborhood around there is going to pay higher property taxes because it'll artificially pump the price up in the short term. And then some places, actually, you can do this as a business-related expense. So you can actually do this as a tax write-off for many of the supplies, and some of the actual things that take place are written off. So you're subsidizing really a poor practice.
Okay, we've run out of time, so now we've been giving all the candidates a minute to look down the gun of the camera and tell them why you should be renewed.
Thank you. And no, thanks for having me. I'm Brian Masse, your NDP candidate for Windsor West. I've been your MP for the past 17 years. It's been exciting for me and my staff to service the persons of our community. I'm always listening and learning and wanting to try new things. And I think that my capabilities as your Member of Parliament, working with others, is a strength, not a weakness. I've been able to work with different governments, minorities, majorities from different parties over the years. As Vice Chair of the Canada-US Parliamentary Association for the past 17 years, I've also been able to work hard in Washington to bring our issues to the table there related to trade and economic development. I'm excited about our opportunities for this election. I'm excited about working on a national urban park. I'm excited about a new auto strategy that we can actually take advantage of the historic investment in Detroit. I'm also excited about the service I can do for our community, for you and your families, whether it be Pharma Care, whether it be dental care or eye care. These are things that are game changers for all of us. So as your representative of the past 17 years, I want to say thank you for the partnerships, and I want to say thank you for considering, and I hope you actually vote for me on October 21st so I can continue to fight for Windsor West and be a strong voice at the table. Thank you very much.
Brian, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Rob.
And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again real soon on We Politics.